Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios at the home of Chakradhari and Rajalakshmi, Devi Dasi, two physicians, both of them physicians, and their delightful son, Gauranga Madhav. You can call him Madhav or you can call him Gauranga. He's good either way. And Hari Priya is upstairs dutifully studying her school studies, which is really a good quality for a person. She had an assignment she had to do. She'll come later if possible. And how lucky am I? I'm going to have surgery tomorrow and I'm staying in the house of my surgeon. And there's nothing like having a peace of mind about this kind of thing. I feel very fortunate by the blessings of all of you, the Vaishnavas, who have a taste for hearing Srila Prabhupada's books every day. Thank you so much. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, he was very attached to the Caitanya-caritämrta, and he glorified one day the Caitanya-caritämrta in this poetic way. It's not to be taken literally. We're not going to, throw away the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam at all, but this is just to show how attached he was to the Caitanya-caritämrta. He said this: In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage. Because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. And if one reads this book attentively, you'll realize that the Bhagavad Gita verses are sprinkled throughout, Bhagavatam verses are sprinkled throughout, Purana verses are sprinkled throughout in the text itself. And the Upanishads, Rasa Shastras, everything is there. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So, before we begin reading Caitanya-caritämrta, we offer our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, Haridas Thakur, all the acharyas, the 10 expansions of Krishna, and Shishi Gornitai, Lakshman, Sita Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, and Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. All the transcendental personalities on the altar. I may have left one out of two, but Vrinda Devi. They're all there in this wonderful environment. Okay. So right in the middle of the pastime, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the invitation of Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya to take prasad at his home, and he had a son-in-law named Amogha, and Amogha had this, oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Priya, thank you, so happy you could come. I didn't want you to miss your studies, though.
Don't worry.
I know, I do all the time. So, and then Amogha snuck in and started blaspheming Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his face in public. This is very, very serious aparad. And after the whole incident, and Särvabhauma went chasing after him with a stick, and after he prayed that he would die and all these things, his wife was very upset, and then the next day he got cholera, Amoga. So we're starting at text 271. It's right in the middle of this pastime. At this time, Gopinath Acharya went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord asked him about the events taking place in Särvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. Gopinath Acharya informed the Lord that both the husband and the wife were fasting, and that their son-in-law Amoga was dying of cholera. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Amoga was going to die, he immediately ran to him in great haste. Placing his hand on Amoga's chest, he spoke as follows: "The heart of the Brahmana is by nature very clean. Therefore it is a proper place for Krishna to sit. Why have you allowed the Chandala of jealousy to sit here also? In this way you have contaminated a most purified place, your heart." Text 276. However, due to the association of Särvabhauma Bhattacharya, all your contamination is now vanquished. When a person's heart is cleansed of all contamination, he is able to chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna. Therefore, Amoga, get up and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you do so, Krishna will unfailingly bestow mercy upon you. Purport. The Absolute Truth is realized in three phases: impersonal Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. All of these are one and the same truth, but Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan constitute three different features. Whoever understands Brahman is called a Brahmana, and when a Brahmana engages in the Lord's devotional service, he is called a Vaishnava. Unless one comes to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his realization of impersonal Brahman is imperfect. A Brahmana can chant the Hare Krishna mantra on the platform of Namabhas, but not on the platform of pure vibration. When a Brahmana engages in the Lord's service, fully understanding his eternal relationship, his devotional service is called Abhideya. When one attains that stage, he is called a Bhagavata, or Vaishnava. This indicates that he is free from contamination and material attachment. Lord Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the duality of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. A Brahmana may be a very learned scholar, but this does not mean that he is free from material contamination. A Brahmana's contamination, however, is in the mode of goodness. In the material world, the three modes are goodness, passion, and ignorance, and all of these are simply different gradations of contamination. Unless a Brahmana transcends such contamination and approaches the platform of unalloyed devotional service, he cannot be accepted as a Vaishnava. An impersonalist may be aware of the impersonal Brahman feature of the Absolute Truth, but his activities are on the impersonal platform. Sometimes he imagines a form of the Lord, saguna upasana, but such an attempt is never successful in helping one attain complete realization. The impersonalist may consider himself a Brahmana and may be situated in the mode of goodness, but nonetheless he is conditioned by one of the modes of material nature. This means that he is not yet liberated, for liberation cannot be attained unless one is completely free from the modes. In any case, the Mayavad philosophy keeps one conditioned. If one becomes a Vaishnava through proper initiation, he automatically becomes a Brahmana. There is no doubt about it. The Garuda Purana confirms this. Brahmananam sahasrebhya satra yaji vishishyate. Satra yaji sahasrabhya sarva vedanta padagaha. Sarva vedanta vitkotya Vishnu bhakto vishishyate. Out of many thousands of Brahmanas, one may become qualified to perform yajna. Out of many thousands of such qualified Brahmanas, one may be fully aware of the Vedanta philosophy. Out of many millions of learned Vedanta scholars, there may be one Vishnu Bhakta, or devotee of Lord Vishnu. It is he who is most exalted. Unless one is a fully qualified Brahmana, he cannot advance in the spiritual science. A real Brahmana is never envious of Vaishnavas. If he is considered an imperfect neophyte. Impersonalist Brahmanas are always opposed to Vaishnava principles. They are envious of Vaishnavas because they do not know the goal of life. Nate vidu swarta gatim hi Vishnum. However, when a Brahmana becomes a Vaishnava, there is no duality. If a Brahmana does not become a Vaishnava, he certainly falls down from the Brahmana platform. This is confirmed by Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.3. Na bhajan jabajananti stanad brashtak padanjadaha. We can actually see that in this age of Kali, many so-called Brahmanas are envious of Vaishnavas. The Kali-contaminated Brahmanas consider deity worship to be imaginative. Arche Vishnu Shila Dir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhihi. Such a contaminated Brahmana may superficially imagine a form of the Lord, but actually he considers the deity in the temple to be made of stone or wood. Similarly, such a contaminated Brahmana considers the Guru to be an ordinary human being, and he objects when a Vaishnava is created by the Krishna consciousness movement. So many so-called Brahmanas attempt to fight us, saying, how can you create a Brahmana out of a European or American? A Brahmana can be born only in a Brahmana family. They do not consider that this is never stated in any revealed scripture. Lord Krishna specifically states in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varnya Maya Shrishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. Thus, a Brahmana is not a result of the caste system. He becomes a Brahmana only by qualification. Similarly, a Vaishnava does not belong to a particular caste. Rather, his designation is determined by the rendering of devotional service. Text 278. After hearing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and being touched by him, Amoga, who was on his deathbed, immediately stood up and began to chant the holy name of Krishna. Thus he became mad with ecstatic love and began to dance emotionally. While Amoga danced in ecstatic love, he manifested all the ecstatic symptoms: trembling, tears, jubilation, trance, perspiration, and a faltering voice. Seeing these waves of ecstatic emotion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to laugh. Amoga then fell down before the Lord's lotus feet and submissively said, "O merciful Lord, please excuse my offense." Not only did Amoga beg the Lord's pardon, but he also began slapping his own cheeks, saying, "By this mouth I have blasphemed you." Indeed, Amoga continued slapping his face over and over again, over and over, until his cheeks were swollen. Finally, Gopinathacharya stopped him by catching hold of his hands. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified Amoga by touching his body and saying, "You are the object of my affection because you are the son-in-law of Särvabhauma, Bhattäcärya. Everyone in Särvabhauma Bhattacharya's house is very dear to me, including his maids and servants and even his dog, and what to speak of his relatives." Amoga always chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and do not commit any further offenses. After giving Amoga this instruction, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Särvabhauma's house. Upon seeing the Lord, Särvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately caught hold of his lotus feet. The Lord embraced him and then sat down. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified Särvabhauma, saying, "After all, Amoga, your son-in-law, is a child. So what is his fault? Why are you fasting? And why are you angry? Just get up and take your bath and go see the face of Lord Jagannath. Then return here to eat your lunch. In this way, I shall be happy." 289. "I shall stay here until you return to take Lord Jagannath's remnants for your lunch." Catching hold of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, the Bhattacharya said, "Why did you bring Amoga back to life? It would have been better had he died." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Amoga is a child and your son. The father does not take the faults of his son seriously, especially when he is maintaining him. Now that he has become a Vaishnava, he is offenseless. You can bestow your mercy upon him without hesitation." Särvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "Please go, my lord, to see Lord Jagannath. After taking my bath, I shall go there and then return." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Gopinath, "Stay here and inform me when Särvabhauma Bhattacharya has taken his prasadam." After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath. Särvabhauma Bhattacharya completed his bath, went to see Lord Jagannath, and then returned to his house to accept food. Thereafter, Amoga became an unalloyed devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He danced in ecstasy and peacefully chanted the holy name of Lord Krishna. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his various pastimes. Whoever sees them or hears them recounted becomes truly astonished. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed eating in Särvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. Within that one pastime, many wonderful pastimes were manifested. These are the peculiar characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Thus the Lord ate at Särvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, and in this way, Särvabhauma's love for the Lord has become very well known. Purport. As stated in Shaka Nirnayamrita, Amoga Panditam Bande, Shi Gaurenat Masatkritam, Prema Gad Gadasandragam, Pulaka Kula Vigraham. I offer my obeisances unto Amoga Pandit, who was accepted by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As a result of this acceptance, he was always merged in ecstatic love, and he manifested ecstatic symptoms such as choking of the voice and standing of the hairs on his body. Text 300. Thus I have related the ecstatic love of Särvabhauma's wife, who is known as the mother of Shati. I have also related Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's great mercy, which he manifested by excusing Amoga's offense. He did so due to Amoga's relationship with a devotee. Purport. Amoga was an offender because he blasphemed the Lord. As a result, he was about to die of cholera. Amoga did not receive an opportunity to be freed from all offenses after being attacked by the disease. But Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya and his wife were the Lord. Because of their relationship, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu excused Amoga. Instead of being punished by the Lord, he was saved by the Lord's mercy. All this was due to the unflinching love of Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Externally, Amoga was Särvabhauma Bhattacharya's son-in-law, and he was being maintained by Särvabhauma. Consequently, if Amoga were not excused, his punishment would have directly affected Särvabhauma. Amoga's death would have indirectly brought about the death of Särvabhauma Bhattacharya. Whoever hears these pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and love will attain the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet very soon. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pariyara Ash Caitanya-caritämrta Kahe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya-caritämrta following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Madhya-lila, 15th chapter, describing the Lord's eating at the house of Särvabhauma Bhattacharya. Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Särvabhauma Bhattacharya Prabhu, Sri Amoga Prabhu. Glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Okay, we're continuing on to chapter 16, the Lord's attempt to go to Vrindavan. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the following summary of this chapter in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Vrindavan, Ramananda Roy and Särvabhauma Bhattacharya indirectly presented many obstructions. In due course of time, all the devotees of Bengal visited Jagannath Puri for the third year. This time, all the wives of the Vaishnavas brought many types of food, intending to extend invitations to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. When the devotees arrived, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent his blessings in the form of garlands. In that year also, the Gundicha temple was cleansed, and when the Chaturmasya period was over, all the devotees returned to their homes in Bengal. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forbade Nityananda to visit Nilachala every year. Questioned by the inhabitants of Kulinagram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again repeated the symptoms of a Vaishnava. Vidyanidhi also came to Jagannath Puri and saw the festival of Odana Shasti. When the devotees bade farewell to the Lord was determined to go to Vrindavan, and on the day of Vijaya Dashami, he departed. Maharaj Prataparudra made various arrangements for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's trip to Vrindavan. When he crossed the river Chitrodpala, Ramananda Roy, Mardaraj, and Harichandan went with him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Gadadhar Pandit to return to Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, but he did not abide by this order. From Kataka, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again requested Gadadhar Pandit to return to Nilachala, and he bade farewell to Ramananda Roy from Bhadraka. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu crossed the border of Orissa state and he arrived at Panihati by boat. Thereafter, he visited the house of Raghava Pandit, and from there he went to Kumarahata, and eventually to Kulia, where he excused many offenders. From there he went to Ramakeli, where he saw Sri Rupa and Sanatan and accepted them as his chief disciples. Returning from Ramakeli, he met Raghunath Das, and after giving him instructions, sent him back home. Thereafter the Lord returned to Nilachala and began to make plans to go to Vrindavan without a companion. Text 1. By the nectar of his personal glance, the cloud known as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu poured water upon the garden of Gaudadesh and revived the people who were like creepers and plants burning in the forest fire of material existence. Text 2. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to go to Vrindavan, and Maharaj Prataparudra became very morose upon hearing this news. Text 4. The king therefore called for Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya and Ramananda Roy, and he spoke the following submissive words to them. Prataparudra Maharaj said, "Please endeavor to keep Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here at Jagannath Puri, for now he is thinking of going elsewhere. Without Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this kingdom is not pleasing to me. Therefore, please try to devise some plan to enable the Lord to stay here." After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself consulted Ramananda Roy and Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya, saying, "I shall go to Vrindavan." Ramananda Roy and Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya requested the Lord to first observe the Rath-yatra festival. Then, when the month of Kartik arrived, he could go to Vrindavan. However, when the month of Kartik came, they both told the Lord, "Now it is very cold. It is better you wait to see the Dola Yatra festival and then go. That will be very nice." In this way, they both presented many impediments, indirectly not granting the Lord permission to go to Vrindavan. They did this because they were afraid of separation from him. Although the Lord is completely independent and no one can check him, he still did not go without the permission of his devotees. Then, for the third year, all the devotees of Bengal wanted to return again to Jagannath Puri. All the Bengali devotees gathered around Advaita Acharya, and in great jubilation, the Acharya departed for Jagannath Puri to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although the Lord told Nityananda Prabhu to stay in Bengal and spread ecstatic love of God, Nityananda left to go see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who can understand Nityananda Prabhu's ecstatic love? All the devotees of Navadvip departed, including Acharya Ratna, Vidyanidhi, Srivas, Ramai, Vasudev, Murari, Govinda, and his two brothers, and Raghava Pandit, who took bags of assorted foods. The inhabitants of Kulinagram, carrying silken ropes, also departed. Text 18. Narahari and Sri Raghunandana, who were from the village of Srikanda, and many other devotees, also departed. Who can count them? Shivananda Sain, who was in charge of the party, made arrangements to clear the tax collecting centers. He took care of all the devotees and happily traveled with them. Text 20. Shivananda Sen took care of all the necessities the devotees required. In particular, he made arrangements for residential quarters, and he knew the roads of Orissa. That year, all the devotees' wives, Thakuranis, also went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sita Devi, the mother of Achyutananda, went with the Dvaita Acharya. Srivas Pandit also took his wife, Malini, and the wife of Shivananda Sen also went with her husband. Chaitanya Das, the son of Shivananda Sen, also jubilantly accompanied them as they went to see the Lord. The wife of Chandrasekhar, Acharya Ratna, also went. I cannot describe the greatness of Chandrasekhar's love for the Lord. To offer Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu various types of food, all the wives of the great devotees brought from home various dishes that pleased Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As stated, Shivananda Sen made all arrangements for the party's necessities. In particular, he pacified the men in charge of levying taxes and found resting places for everyone. Shivananda Sen also supplied food to all the devotees and took care of them along the way. In this way, feeling great happiness, he went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. When they all arrived in Ramuna, they went to see Lord Gopinath. In the temple there, Advaita Acharya danced and chanted. All the priests of the temple had been previously acquainted with Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Therefore they all came to offer great respect to the Lord. That night, all the great devotees remained in the temple, and the priests brought 12 pots of condensed milk, which they placed before Lord Nityananda Prabhu. When the condensed milk was placed before Nityananda Prabhu, he distributed the prasadam to everyone, and thus everyone's transcendental bliss increased. They then all discussed the story of Sri Madhavendra Puri's installation of the Gopal deity, and they discussed how Gopal begged sandalwood from him. It was Gopinath who stole condensed milk for the sake of Madhavendra Puri. This incident had been previously related by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. This same narration was again related by Lord Nityananda to all the devotees, and their transcendental bliss increased as they heard the story again. Purport. The words Mahaprabhuda Mukhe from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are significant because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first heard the story of Madhavendra Puri from his spiritual master, Sripad Ishwara Puri. See Madhya-lila, chapter 4, verse 18. After staying at Sri Adwaita's house in Shantipur for some time, the Lord narrated the story of Madhavendra Puri to Nityananda Prabhu, Jagadananda Prabhu, Damodar Pandit, and Mukunda Das. When they went to Ramuna, to the temple of Gopinath, he described Madhavendra Puri's installation of the Gopal deity, as well as Gopinath's stealing condensed milk. Due to this incident, Lord Gopinath became well known as Chirachora, the thief who stole condensed milk. Text 35. Walking and walking, in this way the devotees arrived in the city of Cuttack, where they remained for a day and saw the temple of Sakshi Gopal. When Nityananda Prabhu described all the activities of Sakshi Gopal, transcendental bliss increased in the minds of all the Vaishnavas. Purport. For these activities refer to Madhya-lila, chapter 5, verses 8 to 138. Everyone in the party was very anxious at heart to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore they hastily went on to Jagannath Puri. When they all arrived at a bridge called Ataranala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing the news of their arrival, sent 2 garlands with Govinda. Govinda offered the 2 garlands to Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, and they both became very happy. Indeed, they began chanting the holy name of Krishna on that very spot, and in this way, dancing and dancing, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu reached Jagannath Puri. Then, for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent garlands through Swarup Damodar and other personal associates. Thus they went forward, sent by the son of Mother Shachi. When the devotees from Bengal reached Lake Narendra, Swarup Damodar and all the devotees met them and offered them the garlands given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the devotees finally reached the Lion Gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the news and personally went to meet them. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his devotees visited Lord Jagannath. Finally, accompanied by them all, he returned to his own residence. Vaninath Roy and Kashi Mishra then brought a large quantity of prasadam, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed it with his own hand and fed them all. In the previous year, everyone had his own particular residence, and the same residences were again offered. Thus they all went to take rest. For 4 continuous months, all the devotees remained there and enjoyed chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As in the previous year, they washed the Gunjita temple when the time for Rath Yatra arrived. The inhabitants of Kulinagram delivered silken ropes to Lord Jagannath, and, as previously, they all danced before the Lord's car. After dancing a great deal, they all went to a nearby garden and took rest beside a lake. A Brahmana named Krishnadas, who was a resident of Rathandesh and a servant of Lord Nityananda's, was a very fortunate person. It was Krishnadas who filled a great water pot and poured it over the Lord while he was taking his bath. The Lord was greatly satisfied by this. The remnants of food offered to the Lord at Balagandi then arrived in great quantity, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees ate it. In reference to Balagandi, see Madhya-lila 13.193. Text 54. As in the previous year, the Lord with all the devotees saw the Rath Yatra festival and the Hera Panchami festival as well. Advaita Acharya then extended an invitation to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there was a great rainstorm connected with that incident. All these episodes have been elaborately described by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. Then one day, Srivas Thakur extended an invitation to the Lord. Purport. The Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya-kanda, chapter 9, gives the following description. One day, Srila Advaita Acharya, having extended an invitation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thought that if the Lord came alone, he would feed him to his great satisfaction. It then so happened that when the other sannyasis were going to Advaita Acharya to take lunch, there was a big rainstorm and they could not reach his house. Thus, according to Advaita Acharya's desires, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came alone and accepted the Prasadam. The Lord's favorite vegetables were cooked by Malini Devi, the wife of Srivas Thakur. She devotedly considered herself a maidservant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but in affection she was just like a mother. All the chief devotees, headed by Chandrasekhar Acharya Ratna, used to extend invitations to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu periodically. At the end of the 4-month Chaturmasya period, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again consulted with Nityananda Prabhu daily in a solitary place. No one could understand what their consultation was about. Then Srila Advaita Acharya said something to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through gestures and read some poetic passages which no one could understand. Seeing the face of Advaita Acharya, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled. Understanding that the Lord had accepted the proposal, Advaita Acharya started to dance. 62. No one knew what Advaita Acharya requested or what the Lord ordered. After embracing the Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade him farewell. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Nityananda Prabhu, "Please hear me, O holy man. I now request something of you. Kindly grant my request. Do not come to Jagannath Puri every year, but stay in Bengal and fulfill my desire." Purport. The mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to spread the only medicine effective in this fallen age of Kali, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Following the orders of his mother, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was residing at Jagannath Puri, and the devotees were coming to see him. However, the Lord felt that this message must be spread very elaborately in Bengal, and in his absence, there was not a second person capable of doing it. Consequently, the Lord requested Nityananda Prabhu to stay there and broadcast the message of Krishna consciousness. The Lord also entrusted a similar preaching responsibility to Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Nityananda Prabhu was requested not to come every year to Jagannath Puri, although seeing Lord Jagannath greatly benefits everyone. Does this mean that the Lord was refusing Nityananda Prabhu a fortunate opportunity? No. One who is a faithful servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must execute his order, even if he has to sacrifice going to Jagannath Puri to see Lord Jagannath there. In other words, it is a greater fortune to carry out Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order than to satisfy one's senses by seeing Lord Jagannath. Preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult throughout the world is more important than staying in Vrindavan or Jagannath Puri for one's own personal satisfaction. Spreading Krishna consciousness is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Therefore, his sincere devotees must carry out his desire. Prithiviti yatya yata yad nagadari gram, sarvatra prachara hoibi moranam. The devotees of Lord Chaitanya must preach Krishna consciousness in every village and town in the world. That will satisfy the Lord. It is not that one should act whimsically for his own personal satisfaction. This order comes down through the parampara system, and the spiritual master presents these orders to the disciple so that he can spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is the duty of every disciple to carry out the order of the bona fide spiritual master and spread Lord Chaitanya's message all over the world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "You can perform a task that even I cannot do. But for you, I cannot find anyone in Gaudadesh who can fulfill my mission there." Purport. Lord Chaitanya's mission is to deliver the fallen souls of this age. In this age of Kali, practically 10% of the population is fallen. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu certainly delivered many fallen souls, but his disciples mainly came from the upper classes. For example, he delivered Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya, and many others who were socially elevated but fallen from the spiritual point of view. Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis were situated in government service, and Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya was the topmost scholar of India. Similarly, Prakashananda Saraswati was a leader of many thousands of Mayavadi sannyasis. It was Srila Nityananda Prabhu, however, who delivered persons like Jagai and Madhai. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, "Amara dushkara karma toma haite hoy." Jagai and Madhai were delivered solely by Nityananda Prabhu's mercy. When they injured Nityananda Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya became angry and decided to kill them with his Sudarshan Chakra. But Nityananda Prabhu saved them from the Lord's wrath and delivered them. In the incarnation of Gaura Nitai, the Lord is not supposed to kill demons, but is supposed to deliver them by preaching Krishna consciousness. In the case of Jagai and Madhai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so angry that he would have immediately killed them. But Nityananda Prabhu was so kind that he not only saved them from death, but elevated them to the transcendental position. Thus, what was not possible for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was carried out by Nityananda Prabhu. Similarly, if one is true to Gaura Nitai's service in the disciplic succession, he can even excel Nityananda Prabhu's service. This is the process of disciplic succession. Nityananda Prabhu delivered Jagai and Madhai, but a servant of Nityananda Prabhu, by his grace, can deliver many thousands of Jagais and Madhais. This is the special benediction of the disciple. Situated in the disciplic succession can be understood by the result of his activities. This is always true as far as the activities of the Lord and his devotees are concerned. Therefore, Lord Shiva says, "Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnor aradhanam pradam tasmat paratadam devi tadiyanam samacharan." Of all types of worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is best, and better than the worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotee, the Vaishnava. Padma Purana. By the grace of Vishnu, a Vaishnava can render better service than Vishnu. That is the special prerogative of a Vaishnava. The Lord actually wants to see his servants work more gloriously than himself. For instance, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Sri Krishna provoked Arjuna to fight because all the warriors on the battlefield were to die by Krishna's plan. Krishna himself did not want to take credit. Rather, he wanted Arjuna to take credit. Therefore, he asked him to fight and win fame. Tasmat tvam utishta jashoda baswa jitva shatrun bhunksvarajam samridam mayai vaite nihita purvameva nimitta matram bhavyasavyasachen. Therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives credit to a devotee who performs any heavy task perfectly. Hanumanji, or Vajrangaji, the servant of Lord Ramachandra, serves as another example. It was Hanumanji who jumped over the sea in one leap and reached the shore of Lanka from the shore of Bharatvarsha. When Lord Ramachandra chose to go there, he paved the way with stones, although by his will the stones were able to float on the sea. If we simply follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions and follow in the footsteps of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, this Krishna consciousness movement can advance, and even more difficult tasks can be performed by the preachers remaining faithful to the service of the Lord. So we'll stop there tonight. Tomorrow I go to the hospital to have the surgery, and I'll be there for at least a couple of days. So I don't know exactly when the next day we will have this reading, but guaranteed it'll be as soon as possible, as soon as I can, because this is too nice. The atmosphere here is too nice. Hare Krishna. Okay, 8:16. Are we too late for you?
No.
It's okay? All right, so we'll stop our reading for the night. Tomorrow we'll find out how Lord Nityananda, well, the next time we read, we'll find out how Lord Nityananda replied to Lord Chaitanya's request. So, any reflections or points of interest, specific interest, discussions? Anything else?
Verse 1664. The verse in
This is Rajalakshmi Devi Das.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In 1664, the purport, the first paragraph, the last sentence is, great fortune. It is great fortune to carry out Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order than to satisfy one's senses by seeing Lord Jagannath. That reminded me of Prabhupada leaving the Radha Damodar in Vrindavan to spread Mahaprabhu's mission.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, he was fixed in the Bhagavad Marg, although he also installed many deities all over the world and encouraged the devotees, because neophyte devotees need to worship the deities. It's very important that they regulated deity worship. But and the Bhagavad Marg is the goal of the Krishna conscious movement, is to spread the Bhagavad Marg, the hearing and chanting of the Lord's transcendental pastimes. Because this takes us to the higher realms of devotional service. And specifically because it encourages preaching to the non-devotees, it promotes the vision of being able to see the Lord in the heart of others. It's one thing to see the Lord in deity form, but it's another thing to see the Lord in the heart of others, some of whom may not be perfect in so many ways in their activities. So this is it's the Bhagavad Marg, and it makes one, when one does this, one preaches, both Krishna, in the end of the 18th chapter of the Gita, he says, anyone who preaches this Bhagavad Gita to others is guaranteed of success. And then in the next verse he said, no one is more dear to me, nor will anyone ever be more dear to me than he who preaches the glories of Krishna consciousness. Anything else? Hare Krishna. Yes, Hari Priya, Hari Bo.
Haribol Maharaj. I was the point you said about Maharaj, about Arjuna and Krishna, and how he easily could have destroyed all of the Kauravas, but he wanted the devotees to be praised more than him, and that's just one of his. That makes us love him even more because he's so selfless, and it really makes it's just because we were learning actually in our religious studies today what traits make religious people more faithful towards their gods, and I was thinking that Krishna, because it's obviously he's the utmost example, but that's so selfless of him, because he can easily do so many things, but in his leelas he just shows so much love towards the devotees, and that's so hopeful for us, because this process it's just basically all we have, and it's so amazing.
Yes, absolutely so. There's a purport in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3, I think it's 31, wherein, or maybe it's 29. Anyway, there, Krishna says that the devotee doesn't disturb those who are in ignorance and waste valuable time. But in the purport, at the end of the purport, Prabhupada said, but the devotees are more kind than the Lord. And the reason is because they understand the purpose of the Lord, that He wants the conditioned souls to be delivered. But at the same time, He's so soft-hearted that He will not interfere with the independence, the slight independence that is given them by nature. And so He won't interfere. But He empowers His devotees. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, He says that it is my desire that the conditioned souls be delivered by the dust of the feet of my pure devotees. So He, in this way, He empowers His pure devotees to do this service, and He gets tremendous happiness from that, and He bestows full benediction. And there, in this way, He's the supreme everything. Yeah. He's the best at anything. And He's things that are normally considered to be not so nice in the material world, when Krishna does them, they become the most thing, the nicest thing. So yes, He's so kind to His devotees, and He's so attached to His devotees. We were just reading in the 9th canto how when Lord Vishnu was speaking to Durvasa Muni, when Durvasa Muni was being chased by the Sudarshan Chakra because of his offense to Maharaj Ambarish, and he finally went to Brahma, he went to Shiva, he went to everybody in heavenly planets. No one could help him. So he finally went to Vaikuntha, and he saw Vishnu personally. And he said, what can I do? You know, the devotees are so dear to me, I'm controlled by them. You have to go back to Ambarish and get his mercy. Then you'll be delivered. See? So this is the nature of the Lord. He wants to see His devotees glorified. And that is His greatest glory. It's a fact. What else? Got something from cyberspace?
Yes, from Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi. She's my god sister. She's in Florida.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. We will be chanting for your benefit tomorrow. Everything will go smoothly.
Whoa, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I'm living in the house of my surgeon, and I feel so protected and so safe. I'm not even thinking about it, actually. But your blessings mean so much to me, and I'm sure because of all those blessings, because of what we were just talking about, the Lord fulfills the desires of His devotees. So because of the mercy of the devotees, I'm sure everything will be okay.
And something from Rati Manjari.
Hey Rati, Hare Krishna.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tonight we heard many interesting things. The story of how the offensive Amoga Prabhu became blessed by Lord Chaitanya, who saved him from death and gave him ecstatic love, simply because of his relationship with Särvabhauma Bhattäcärya. Reminded me of the blessings and mercy that we all have received and are receiving daily because of Srila Prabhupada's prayers for us and his dearness to Lord Chaitanya. I also have a question. We heard how Amoga, having realized his offensive behavior to Lord Chaitanya, was slapping his face again and again, saying, With this mouth I have blasphemed you. Only after his face was all swollen did Gopinathacharya stop him, but not immediately. I have heard that such behavior of inflicting pain to oneself is common in certain Christian or yogic traditions, and now we heard Amoga do a similar thing. Is this behavior something that could be beneficial for us in our development of devotion, and if so, how? Or should we simply hear this as a part of this pastime?
It's a part of the pastime. It's not wrong to feel remorse for when we make a mistake or we do an offense, knowingly or unknowingly. But in this case, it was particularly intensified because of the lesson that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to teach. He didn't have to let him slap himself so many times, but he did that to teach a lesson, to everyone how serious an offense it is to blaspheme the Lord personally, directly, and to show that anyone, even a person of such fallen condition, can be relieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya just because they're connected with an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. So yes, this is the pastime of the Lord.
And then something from Dayanitai.
Jai Dayanitai.
He says, Dear and respected Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. All glories to your holiness. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your nourishing reading this evening. At the start you mentioned how among various shastras, also passages from Rasa Shastras are sprinkled throughout the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. As I do not know what the Rasa Shastras are, would you please explain which writings are under that category?
Yeah, Lalita Madhava, Vidagdha Madhava, Govinda Lamrita, and on and on and on. The writings of the Goswamis mainly, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Kavi Kanapur. These are, as a whole, as a class, are called the Rasa Shastras because they teach the meanings of the relationships between Krishna and his devotees, Lord Chaitanya and his devotees, as an example for all to follow, and the intense hearing of them over a long period of time will invoke a natural attraction for one of them. That's not to be imitated. It's not that you just, because I feel like I want to be, this kind of a devotee or that kind of devotee. It has to be a natural awakening spontaneously in the heart that comes from dutiful and intense hearing for over a very long time. This was also Kapila Dev's teachings to Devahuti, because she asked this question. I can understand that I'm not the body, that's a fairly easy thing to understand, but how I'm not the mind, or how the intelligence is merged into together, that's beyond me to understand, or what to speak of doing anything about it. What can I do? And then Kapila Dev answered that question by saying, yes, if you give up your speculative reasoning, in other words, trying to figure it out by yourself, what's the answer is, what the truth is, and go on hearing from proper authority very intensely and seriously for a very long time, then those things will be revealed to you. So it's not something that you can get by the power of your own, the strength of your own senses and mind. It has to be revealed to you by the Lord. It was in the heart. Hare Krishna.
And there's a comment from Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I hope everything goes well tomorrow. May Lord Nrsingadev protect you, Maharaj. We will all pray for you.
Thank you so much. As I say again and again, the mercy of the Vaishnavas is everything.
And from May M. Maitrey, she says, we'll chant and pray for you tomorrow, Gurudev Maharaj.
Thank you.
Santa
I'm so fortunate. I'm so protected because the Vaishnavas, they're so kind.
And Santa Rupa Devidasi says, my prayers are with you, dear Maharaj. We will all be waiting for you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll, even though I know probably there are some more, but it's getting late tonight, and tomorrow's a big day, and also I've got a family to put to bed over here. No, I'm done. This is my reciprocation with you. You're doing so much. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll be back, promise, as soon as I can. And I got the best doctor in town, and he's going to make sure that's as soon as I can. Shri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So I'll see you next time as soon as possible. It won't be weeks, it'll be days. Just how many days, I don't know yet, but stay tuned. We'll let you know by post. Hare Krishna.